Hi, and welcome to Say Grace, Food for Thought and Hospitality. I'm Steve Palmer, and I invite you to join me as we explore the stories behind leaders in the hospitality industry and beyond. Say Grace is a place to reflect, connect, and savor thoughtful narratives. Everyone has a seat at our table. So pull up a chair and let's discover the transformative power of hospitality together. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Say Grace. My name's Steve Palmer. Welcome to where we unpack all things hospitality and those that do the work, create the memories, and participate in the magic. Very excited for my guest today. As always, I'll read the formal bio, then we'll get into it. I am so pleased to welcome Jeremiah Langhorne to the show today. Jeremiah is the chef and co-owner of the Dabney in Washington, D.C., a restaurant that has helped redefine American cooking, has the best wood-burning hearth in America through a deep reverence for mid-Atlantic ingredients, history, and hearth-driven technique. The Dabney has earned a Michelin star every year since the DC Guide's debut and named a 2025 James Beard semifinalist for Outstanding Restaurant and was ranked the #1 restaurant in the district by Washingtonian. Jeremiah himself received the 2018 James Beard Award for Best Chef Mid-Atlantic, cementing his place as one of the region's defining culinary voices. Jeremiah, welcome to Say Grace.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back home.
Yeah, it's good to be back down here. It feels great.
Yeah. It was. You were here at such a prolific shift in the dining narrative. We were opening the McIntosh. Y'all were, well, you were at McCrady's, but Husk was coming around, and then McCrady's went to a tasting format. How's it feel to be back?
Feels good. I love Charleston. When I was young and I first came down, I was trying to, the economy wasn't great in, 2007 when I was trying to come in and get a job. And so I was coming down to stage, and I would, knock on the door and say, hey, can I come in? Can I hang out? And it wasn't, a lot of people were wondering whether or not they were going to hold on to their job. So an extra person around wasn't, the best thing lots of times, but I was so in love with the city, and it just, completely captured me. And so I really worked at and eventually got the job there, and just absolutely loved it. And so to this day, I still think about ways to try to get back down here.
Well, come on, we'll welcome you. You know that. Well, backing up a little, I'm going to start with the question I always start with. How did you find food?
So I had a fairly atypical childhood growing up with it. My dad and my grandfather cooked a little bit, but when you're a kid growing up, Virginia, you don't really notice or pay attention to a lot of stuff like that. Like my grandfather would make some country hams or cook some lima beans out of his garden, but it was like, we'd go over there one Sunday every few months or whatever and have a dinner. But so there was no real connection to it, I'd say. And then we bounced around a bunch, and when I actually got into it was very accidental. So I had taken a job. I was just, my primary goal was skateboarding at the time. Loved skateboarding. It was, 30 years and 50 pounds ago. So a little bit easier back then. Yeah. But I wanted to just try to become a professional skateboarder. And a buddy of mine had gotten a job at this strip mall pizza joint. And he was like, oh, why don't you come work with me? You can deliver pizzas. And, so I started doing that. And I'd actually worked at McDonald's first, but I don't know if we need to go into that. The pizza place, at night after running my deliveries, I would see the guys in the kitchen, and they would just be messing around, clearly not using a recipe, just throwing stuff together. And one day I just went in and talked to them and said, what are you doing? What's going on? And they're like, oh, we're coming up with the specials for tomorrow. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, well, we just kind of mess around, see what tastes good, see what's great. And for whatever reason, it just hit me that was such an amazing kind of creative outlet to have and something really cool. And so I asked them if I could move from delivering pizzas into the kitchen. Oh, cool. And so they let me make the transition. I moved in and started working on it, and did that for, I don't know, probably 8 months or so. And luckily the owner of that restaurant was like, he was kind enough and nice enough to say, hey, if you really like food, there's some places you should go, and he pointed me in the direction of a much better restaurant. So,
and what was the name of that?
So that restaurant was called Oxo.
And this was in Maryland?
No, this is in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Charlottesville.
Yeah.
Okay.
And OXO was kind of the best restaurant in town. And it was a British guy. His name John Haywood, and he came down, immigrated into America, and was used to be the chef at a club down there called Keswick Hall, which was
of course,
great place. And then eventually moved out to do his own thing, and he was very Marco Pierre White, Gordon Ramsay style, intense, great food, good cooking. And so I came to him and said, hey, I don't really have any skills or anything, but I want to learn, and he was like, I'll teach you. You can come on board. We'll treat it like a culinary school for you. And he let me stage in the beginning. So I would work at my other job, go there on my days off. And eventually one day he came to me and he was like, you know what? I think you're worth a shot. We'll get you on the payroll. We'll get you started. And then he properly put me through all of the stations. And he did a lot for me. He was a fantastic chef, great guy, really straightened me out. I was not, let's say, the most responsible or respectful teenager. So he really set me straight, and he got me on a good path to really, he exposed me to the larger world of cooking and what it meant to be a chef. At that point, it was like, there's a big difference between, strip mall, pizza shop specials and cuisine, so he introduced me to a lot of it. And I still talk to him to this day. It's fantastic. Great guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like the discipline of the kitchen might have been
it's a big one.
Needed the structure and organization.
Definitely. We had a few moments that really stick out. I mean, I'd broken my ankle. I was pretty serious about skateboarding. I'd broken my ankle and was wearing this cast up to my knee in the middle of summertime. And, I was obviously moving slower and not as nimble and good as I could be. And it was just a nuisance. And he sat me down at the end of the shift and he said, Chef, you're going to really have to decide like what's going to put food on your table and what's going to allow you to be, an adult and be, contribute to society and blah, blah, and all these things. And it was the first time anybody had said anything like that to me. So, I really took it to heart and thought about it. And I was like, you know what? Cooking probably has a lot more for me than skateboarding. So
I got on a skateboard one time. When I was 6'3", by the time I was 14.
Yeah.
And it was top heavy, and immediately got on a hill like this, fell off, and that was my skateboarding journey.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm good.
It can go bad pretty quick. It can go bad pretty quick.
This was like the 80s when the whole California, the empty pools, and when all of that, and people were putting weed in their Frisbee and getting the seeds out and all that kind of crazy crap. So where did you go from there?
So at the time, I'd been, a lot of, it's funny, blogs had started happening, right?
Oh, okay.
So this is pre-social media, this is pre-whatever, but blogs had started happening. And I had just met my wife. My wife was a hostess there, and so I just started dating her. And I was starting to pay attention to this up-and-coming young chef named Sean Brock, who had a blog that he updated on a regular basis. And my wife, who's wonderful, and spent her winters teaching adaptive skiing to physically and mentally handicapped kids and adults in her off time.
Wow.
And so
that's beautiful.
Yeah, she had gotten
That's
this
awesome.
job at Crested Butte Ski Resort in Colorado. Right, amazing place to ski when the snow's good, especially. But so she was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go. I know we're dating or whatever." She was very independent. She was like, "But I'm gonna go do this. If you want to come, whatever." And so I was torn. I didn't really know what to do yet, and I was a sous chef at the restaurant at the time, so I had plenty of responsibility there. And so the first winter she was gone, I kind of kept studying that blog Sean was doing and decided to go down there and stage. I'd also went to stage at the French Laundry for a little while. It was just a very interesting time. I was just trying to think, which direction do I want to go?
Right.
You know, a guy I'd worked with, he ended up going out there and was working at the laundry. That's how I got in there to stage. And Sean was just exciting, you know, his style of cooking and focusing
Was he at
on
the Hermitage in Nashville at this
No,
point?
he had just gotten to McCrady's.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
right.
And he was putting up these blog posts every day of like the wackiest stuff. You know, I think a lot of people don't realize that when he first started, he was,
Oh yeah.
you know, the craziest things.
Yeah.
And that was cool to me. You know, I was really young and technique. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about cooking. When you're first learning about it, there's so many new exciting ways to go. You know,
That's right.
so when I went down there and staged, I I came into this kitchen, and the one thing that I really was excited by, it just hit me like a ton of bricks that I was the dumbest person in that kitchen. Like I was the sous chef of what the best restaurant in our town.
Right.
But the guy that was like the number 3 on Garde Manger was definitely better than me at cooking. And I was like, okay, there's levels to this, you know, like I need to dig into it. So came back, went and visited her in Colorado a bunch, and, kept on. At the time, there was no availability at McCrady's, and the laundry, I think about this all the time. I just was too young. I was too immature. It was so regimented and so structured, and there's all these things that happened when I was younger there that I didn't understand and was frustrated by. And then when I became a chef and eventually a restaurant owner, I totally understand now and get and appreciate. But it was a very different environment. It was so precise and so tight and everything the right way. And, for a 22-year-old kid, McCrady's and Charleston and, that kind of vibe was more intriguing. It also kind of reminded me of my food, like the food I grew up with a little bit more. And so I was trying to get the job there. And my wife was like, hey, I'm going back to Crescent Butte again the next year. And I was like, well, I'm tired of like the back end. I was like, you know what? I'll go with you because I got to get out of what I'm doing here. And so the hilarious thing about this is, I go out there, and Crescent Butte's a tiny little place. There is 2 nice restaurants in town. One of them is called Harry's Fine Dining. Clue for everybody: if fine dining's in the name, probably
it ain't fine dining.
Yeah, probably an issue.
Yeah.
But I wanted to snowboard and hang out, and I was like, okay, cool. Like I don't think I'm going to really be able to work on my skills here. But the funniest, most serendipitous thing happened. I got hired to be the sous chef there. There's only 3 of us in the kitchen. It was like the owner, and then me, and the dishwasher. But he said, I'm really glad you showed up. I'm having to replace a really good guy. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, what did he do? And he goes, well, he just left to move to Charleston, become the private dining chef for this guy, Sean Brock, down there. And I called, his name's Chad Carter. Awesome guy. Love him to death. I cold called him. No idea. Said, you don't know who I am. I'm taking your old job in Crescent Butte. I was like, I've always wanted to get into McCrady's and get a job there and work there. And I was like, I just want to, get in there somehow. And he was like, well, when you're done in Crescent Butte, why don't you come stay with me? I'll get you in there, can hang out as much as possible, and then I'll start working on Sean and the rest of the team, and we'll get you hired. We'll get you on board. And I was like,
oh, wow.
So, we finished
really
up
cool.
that winter in Colorado and then moved back to Charlottesville. I took a job at this place called the IVN, which ended up Angelo Evangelopoulos is the guy's name. Great chef, taught me a lot as well. But, I told him from the get-go, like, I'm trying to get this job in Charleston. So he understood. And eventually I pestered Sean and drove down here enough times. And I think, was able to get in the door. I think they had gotten down to kind of a skeleton crew. And so Chad had called me and said, hey, we're not hiring anybody new, but we've got to have at least this many guys. And one of these guys is leaving. So if you're here the right time when this happens, I think you can get the job. And so I hightailed it down there and showed up and, was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and got in there as soon as the guy put his notice in. I think Sean hired me an hour later, So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so it worked out well. It was a nice way to get in.
Was that intimidating, or like that period where you sort of walked into a completely new environment? What was that like?
Yeah, it was very intimidating, just for a number of reasons. But one of the biggest ones just being the size and scale of the restaurant. I had worked at these small, 40-seat, small town places, and the kitchen's the size of the seating area, and there's 3 people in it, 4 people in it. And so to go into, that was a big restaurant, and there was a lot of different departments and areas, and it just seemed like so much was going on, and I didn't know, how I would fit into it. But, one of my best attributes is always just, I'm a grinder, put my head down, I'll work hard, and, so I just started doing it. And luckily I'm very grateful for Chad because he was super helpful, let me live with him when I first moved down there and really helped me get my feet underneath of me and just was super kind.
What's he doing now?
He started working the last I heard, he had been working for the Department of Natural Resources down here.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
Very cool.
Spending his time outdoors.
Outdoors,
like that.
Yeah. At that point, how would you have described your cooking? What was Jeremiah's food?
At that point, it was a lot of like that British French foundation from John Haywood at OXO. And so like probably like Gordon Ramsay would be the best way to understand it. And before he became the TV guy, and a mix of that and me being so excited by, you know, the Grant Achatz and the Shawns and the people, you know, you had so many different people.
Adrian Farrar was, we were reading a lot about Il Bulli at that point.
Everything was blowing up with this modernist cuisine and all this stuff, you know, so it was all this classic
Osteria Francescana, all, you know, Massimo.
People were doing wild things with food, you know? And so it was this mix of the two, and I was just curious about everything. You know, I'd say like that's you know, a big thing for me, just very curious. So I was digging into all of that stuff. So I didn't really even think about it like that. At that point, I always kind of didn't really think I had much talent or much going on. I didn't think about it in those terms. I just thought like, whatever the guys tell me to do, I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it well, and I'm going to keep working on it until I can get better and better and better, you know? So,
Curiosity. It's funny. Our leadership conference last week, the theme was staying curious.
Oh, fantastic. It's so important.
You're playing right into it. Thank you, Jeremiah.
Yeah, of course. It's huge. I mean, I think it can carry you a very long way. I mean, I didn't have the opportunity to get traditional education. I didn't go to college, didn't go to culinary school. I couldn't afford any of that stuff. And so, you know, I realized though that if you're curious, you can get it. You can get that information.
That's
you can get whatever. There's always someone who's willing to share books, whatever, you know, so it's a really helpful skill. So
I think as long as you're willing to pursue it, I'm really thankful. I've never had to worry about being curious.
Yeah.
I'm always cold calling Danny Meyer or talking to this guy or like, hey, tell me about what you're doing.
Yep.
And I think that's really fascinating. Like, to me, it's what's so exciting.
Yeah.
I feel like complacency is the opposite of that.
Yes.
You know,
100%.
just trying to get through the shift, just trying to not have problems, you know, instead of what can we be doing better?
It can provide so much energy and so much for you mentally, and just, I mean, it's every single opportunity, like you said, what can we do a little better is like a new gateway. It's a new wormhole to an entirely new style of looking at something, you know, well, maybe the steak could be seared a little bit nicer. Like, let me like go down the rabbit hole of how protein works and searing works. And, you know, so it's a great attribute. Love it.
And our industry is always evolving.
Yes.
You know, and some of the evolution are things I've looked at and go, I'm good. You know, that's doesn't align with my values. But then, you know, there are other things that and I think what I loved selfishly, speaking, you were talking about when you used to be skinny, me too, is receiving hospitality. I do a lot of that, just, you know, whether it's hotel stays or food, because sometimes we forget how restorative it is to be well taken care of.
It's huge. And I think it's so important. You know, I in one of your other podcasts with Brooks.
Yeah.
I remember he mentioned that, you know, whenever you're a little down and maybe things are a little tough, he's like, you take a trip to New York for the weekend and go to a bunch of restaurants, stay at a nice hotel, do that. And it's so true. And, you know, my wife is a travel advisor as well. So we love going to a great hotel. We love having those experiences. And there's so many opportunities where you see, you know, some small little thing they do or a certain way that they treat you or whatever it is. I mean,
that's right.
And it can happen anywhere. I had an amazing experience a couple of weeks ago in a Starbucks. That was just shocking. This young lady at the counter was so polite and so earnest and so happy and so willing to do any little extra thing she could. And I remember I was walking out, wife's in the car, and I was like, wow, just had a great experience in there. You know, had a fantastic time in there. And it's so good for the soul, you know?
It is. We talk a lot about how service is transactional. Hospitality is how we made you feel. Yep. And it can happen. I was renting a car in the Raleigh airport, and you have to take a bus from the airport to the rental car agency. The woman driving the bus loved her job. And you know, it was just like, the bus ride isn't the thing. It's that. That's that. It's never the transaction. So you're at McCrady's, and at what point for you did you say, I'm gonna open my own restaurant?
I think
Because you left here and went straight to the Dabney, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
So my plan was, I'd worked for, I luckily, so that chef, John Haywood, like kind of built me into this idea of like, you can find a chef, go stage for them, get a job there, and then learn as much as you can and kind of move on, right? And so the idea was, let me learn as much as I can and then keep moving from chef to chef until I feel ready and I feel like I have something to say. Because I think there's so much pressure, especially, it wasn't as bad when I was, back then, but it's getting worse and worse every day for young people, their 20s, 30s, whatever, that you're supposed to be some sort of superstar when you're 25.
Right.
You don't know anything when you're 25. No. You've got no idea.
I knew zero at 25.
I was probably in negative numbers.
Right.
So it was this idea that I just wanted to, kind of buckle down. And so while working at McCrady's, I had the opportunity to go stage at Noma. So this is before they were the #1 restaurant in the world.
Yep.
I went out there, and that was a transformative experience because I got really, really interested and excited about the type of cuisine that he was doing, and not Nordic cooking. I think it was different to me. I never connected with Nordic cooking, the ingredients, the technique. What I connected with was the way that he saw his landscape and the way he wanted to use his landscape to express to his guests, what it meant to be eating in Scandinavia, right?
Right.
And so my first thought was like, well, there's great stuff all over Charleston. We've got this wonderful coastline, beautiful, wild chanterelles, and just so many different things to forage, and so much so I came back and just hit that really hard and just started getting into all of that stuff, and I think kind of the stars aligned to a certain point, and Sean was starting to move into Husk and get that going. And I had the opportunity to, I'd been offered a job to stay out there but I just didn't want to. I wanted to move back, wanted to be in America. And I think Sean probably sensed that I was going to do something. I was going to go to the next level or do whatever. And luckily I got the opportunity to take over as the head chef there. And that gave me enough creative freedom to start to really work on, develop, and build what my idea of food was. And I had enjoyed all of the modern stuff we did, but I think I enjoyed a lot of that because of the curiosity. It was a new technique, it was a new thing. And, and that's how I look at all cooking. I think people focus on these things. It's so funny, like people will say, I hate foams. And it's like, okay, I don't particularly like them either, but I don't disdain them in that way, So it was just, I was starting to kind of realize that I wanted to make a type of food that was representative of the region and the area, that really built on like product, raw ingredient. Like I love focusing on Charleston has incredible seafood. We have all these amazing grains and vegetables and wild products. And so that started to really resonate with me. And then I continued starting to like really build my repertoire of what I wanted to cook and what I wanted to do. As Sean's career was skyrocketing, so I had the opportunity to really kind of push things while I was running that kitchen, and it was a great time.
And it became a tasting menu format. Yeah.
Yep. Eventually went into a tasting menu.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because now I spend a lot of time trying to talk my sous chefs and cooks out of this, but when you're young and you're pushing all those things, you want to get so refined and you want to get so precise, And so I remember having conversations with the president of the group, David Howard, who's fantastic. I learned.
Saw him the other night. Love David.
He's one of my favorite people.
I love David. And every time we see each other, it's like we don't see each other much, but when we do, there's like a really genuine connection.
Yeah, Sean was all food, right?
Right.
And let me tell you, if you want to open your own restaurant, that's a portion of it. It's not even close to being what you need.
There's a follow-up question to that coming.
And David was the other side, this is a business and all of these things. So it was really an incredible time to help me learn and grow through that. So I'd said to him, well, if this is how much we're making off of this guest average, can we do less people and raise the guest average?
Right.
And so we went to like a prefix 4-course kind of thing. And then Sean loved that. We always had like a tasting menu that was optional on the side.
Right.
But the moving the main menu from a la carte into the prefix meant that we were essentially an all tasting menu restaurant. You know,
Right.
the least you could get was the 4-course thing. And I don't know how successful that was. I should have been a lot more tied into the business than I was. You know, I focused on labor and food costs because I was chef and that was my zone. But it did allow us to change the cuisine and get a little bit more precise and a little bit. And I think that is what Sean wanted too, because Husk was obviously much more casual and that was coming to be. So I just went down that tasting menu rabbit hole, and it is a rabbit hole. You can really get lost in there.
Yeah.
But I think we had a 9-course, a 7-course, and then the 4-course. So
The 9-course was one of the best meals I've ever had in my life.
oh, fantastic!
Sean, it was funny. Sean was in Tokyo, and I also share a love of Japan, a deep love of it. And I was like, it was like the December 23rd or something. It was right around Christmas, and it was I probably still one of the most elevated, non-Charleston-esque, and I mean that as a compliment.
Yeah.
Food meals I've ever had here.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, it was really phenomenal.
It was a great time. I mean, that really acted as a vessel for me. Like people like you and other chefs and people in the industry that would come in. I had the opportunity to cook for a lot of amazing people. You know, Charleston attracted a lot of incredible people.
Yeah.
And, you know, to have these great moments where, you know, like Hugh Atchison would walk into the kitchen and, you know, say, well, who cooked? You know, what's going on? And
Right.
I'd get to meet him and talk about it. And, you know, just got to cook for so many great people. And it was such a fun time because it was pure cooking. You know, I'd get up early in the morning. I'd go out foraging. I'd get into the kitchen, go crazy, work as hard as I could, and then, you know, wouldn't get home till 2 or 3 and then do it over again. And when you're in your mid-20s, you have the energy to do it.
Amen.
You know? So
I do not have that energy.
Not even close.
The festival's already wearing me out this year. I'm like 6 a.m., take the daughter to school, leaving the event at 11, bed at midnight. I'm like, God, I'm too old.
Yeah, when I ate a fig last night, the only reservation I could get was a 9:30 one, and I was lamenting it the whole night. It's like 9:30, that's tough. And I was just thinking to myself, like, this is lame. You're not old enough yet, but it was real. I was so tired when I got home.
I got in bed.
Yeah.
It's a business of youth, Jeremiah.
It
is a business of youth.
It is.
So why the decision to go to D.C.
Yes.
versus Charleston?
I think it was, you know, it was such an interesting time. There was a lot happening and there was a lot going on. And in the back of my mind, I continue to think about that idea of you're going to go, you're going to find these chefs, you're going to work for them, you're going to learn as much as you can from them, you're going to move on. And so I was thinking, you know, I've been here for a long time, worked for Sean forever, and who's the other chef in the country that I want to go work for? And I spent a lot of time looking to see who it was going to be.
Okay.
And I didn't find anybody that really jumped out and really, you know, and that made me face the facts that maybe I felt it was time to do my own thing, you know?
Sure.
And at this point, you know, I'd spent a few years running the kitchen, running the menu, so I felt comfortable from that aspect and was getting better at some of the numbers and the other stuff as well, and just felt a little bit better about the way things worked. And so I started to really think about the idea of, okay, well, maybe I am going to open my own place, and then start doing research. You know, my wife's family all still live in the DC area. And so we would go back and visit, and it just struck me that there were so many people there. It's the nation's capital. So number one, I felt like it really deserved a restaurant that represented the regional cuisine there. Didn't have one. And then number two, it was like, it was known as being a steakhouse town and having a lot of chain restaurants.
Yeah.
That's kind of what DC was known
sure.
for. And I just felt like that there's got to be so much opportunity there, given like how educated the people are there, how international the city is, how many people are coming. Like, there's got to be a real demand for, you know, higher level cuisine there.
Yeah.
And so we started thinking about it and looking into it, and you know, I learned a really valuable lesson. It was surprisingly easy to do. Like, and I mean that in the most humble way, because I'll explain why it wasn't the best thing to have happen. But when you want to go do your own thing, and you know you need to find funding, and you need to, you know, you're working on your business plan, all these things, we ended up kind of wrapping up our funding within like 2 or 3 weeks. And I thought it was going to take me 2 years.
Yeah.
And I think when you're young and you're looking to do something like that, you should shop everything. You know, if you're getting something done, a service, whatever, if it's expensive, it's important, you know, get 3 quotes, see which one makes the most sense, do all that stuff. And, you know, I was just so excited that someone was willing to do it that I was like, yeah, let's go do it, you know? And now I think back to, you know, there's just so much more diligence I could have done, should have done. You know what I mean? I should have taken more time to think about it. You know, I felt like my time, the relationship and situation was deteriorating a little bit. So I kind of wanted to move on from that job. And so it was, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it. We're moving to DC. You know? And pretty quickly we ended up moving up there. It was funny. This is so wild. I do not advise this to anybody. On my last,
I have so many of this story. Do not do this.
On my last day there, I was leaving to go get married that weekend. So it was like a Thursday. And I decided to cook for my wedding. We had 120 people coming. We basically... At
your own wedding?
Yep. My wife is...
I'm looking at your wife who's got a told you so moment on her face.
She's a phenomenal designer and planner. And she had set this whole thing up in Virginia because she had moved up there. She ended up going to UVA to nursing school, got her master's in nursing. And that's what she had been doing. And I was just had my head in the food doing all this stuff. And she had set up this whole weekend. You know, we had this beautiful place in Nelson County. And so I put a whole pig in the back of my car, a bunch of ingredients, a bunch of stuff. And I drove up there and just basically started cooking, started prepping, cooking, doing everything. And I mean, this probably, I can't even imagine. I mean, we pulled this wedding off for like 20 grand and it should have cost 150. You know, it was just outrageous what called in every favor we could. And, you know, so it was like this really intense, moment that happened. And then I was married and we had to move to DC because she was starting a job. She worked at Children's Hospital in DC in the NICU. And I didn't have a job. I had funding for a restaurant, but I didn't have a location. I had my business plan. I had all that good stuff. So I was like, okay, well, we'll start looking for places, you know? And I had severely underestimated how weird and tough it is to go from being somebody who's running something and in charge of something and is needed and has purpose and has all these things to, oh, well, yeah, you know, you got a meeting on Thursday with the brokers to go look for a spot, but there's nothing else going on. And so it was a tough time. You know, I wanted to try to, you know, fill my time and do productive things and work on things, but, you know, we could barely afford a little studio apartment that we had in the city and just trying to, you know, find spaces, but there's only so many spaces you can look at and so much time. And every restaurant that I went to, I was like, can I just get a job as like a cook? And they're like, no, you can be the head chef. And I'm like, I don't want to be the head chef. I just want to kind of cook. And, you know, eventually I found a buddy up there who allowed me to hang out in his kitchens a little bit, but it was such a weird transition in life to go from running this thing to like, you know, really have much going on. Purpose. Yeah, exactly. And that taught me such a valuable lesson. I think purpose is the single most important thing. It doesn't matter, you know, the best piece of advice I ever got from my dad was, it doesn't matter what you do. You should just love it and want to be very good at it. He was like, so if you want to be a garbage man, if you want to be a fisherman, if you want to be, it doesn't matter. If you love it and you want to do it really, really well, you'll be happy.
That's enough.
You'll be good, you know? And so, and that really became apparent during that time. It was like, you got to serve a purpose. You got to provide. It doesn't really matter what the purpose is, but you have to serve one and it has to have that, you know? So.
Part of our conference was connecting to your why, which is your purpose, right? And the philosopher Nietzsche said, in modern language, your why will trump your how, meaning how you're going to get it done. You'll trump that every time if you know why you're doing it. You know, and I'm such a believer in purpose and really, you know, we went through an exercise, the Simon Sinek book, Start With Why, and we all can connect because, man, the physical work is hard. If you don't know why you're doing it, I would imagine it's pretty unfulfilling. You know, the pay's not great, you know, I mean, well, that's awesome. So when you walked in to what is now the Dabney, did you know? It's such a cool spot.
Oddly enough, we did, and it's interesting. It was like a half building. So basically, it's it's 3 row houses that have been put together, and where they back up. So DC used to have these historic 8-shaped alleyways, and they used to be where, you know, stables would be, where, you know, a cobbler would be, you know, these very functional, great places. Most of them got destroyed in the 50s and 60s, but a few left. And so McCrady's was off of this beautiful alleyway. Mm-hmm. This was not nearly as beautiful as this alleyway, but the building had so much character. And one thing I'd taken for granted living in Charleston all those years was like, man, Charleston just oozes charm and character. And you know, I mean, when you go to look at spaces, it's hard. You know, you need to find something that is not just brand new. It's not, you know.
And you know, usually like you walk in before the door hits you in the butt. You're like, yep, this is it.
So this was like literally, you know, the half back end of this area that was the kind of the garage back end, but it was all this historic brick and the way it was set up, and had a mud floor at the time. But it had this really deep dugout basement, and it was off the alley, and that was just super unique. There was nothing else in the city like it at the time. And so we were excited about it. My wife actually found it. Our broker, it's funny, been working with the broker to see all these spaces, and she was like, you should go check out this space. And sure enough, we went over there, and it was fantastic. So love that we got. It's a great spot.
Why the decision to go only cooking on fire?
You know,
because there's no gas in your kitchen, is there?
There is now. When we opened, there wasn't.
Right.
You know? And then so
I remember the first time I saw your kitchen, I was like, holy crap, there's no gas.
Yeah. We during COVID, we actually ended up getting a cooking suite and moving it in. It's like, you know, at a certain point, things are cool and fun, and at a certain point, you just have cooks that are, you know, they're ready to have it be a little easier, you know? But in the beginning, it was 100%, and that actually originated down here. So I had met Rodney Scott, great barbecue, amazing guy, and watched him cooking barbecue and watched him using those embers and watched him. And I think that's what we've always had, a very unique approach to it, because it didn't come from like the Argentinian style or the Spanish style or the what. It literally was me just thinking, if he can make pork taste that good with those embers, I want to cook fish like that. I want to cook vegetables like that. I want to cook steak like that. I want to cook all these things. And, you know, we didn't have a lot of money to build anything else. So my dad and little brother, the concrete contractors. So I was like, I can cast the hearth out of concrete, and then we'll just line it with fire brick. And so my kitchen budget was way cheaper than it would normally be, because we just had to build that and then fill in with some other stuff, you know? So we ended up putting that together, and it was just kind of this idea that if I really wanted to represent the region, you know, I'm a huge cookbook collector, and I have all these old cookbooks, and all of them basically, before a certain time, everybody was cooking in their fireplace. They were cooking in their hearth, you know? Mm-hmm. So if I wanted to represent the region really well, it was going to be through wood-fired cooking, so.
I love that.
Yeah.
Were you surprised at the response to the Dabney when you opened?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Because there was a big splash when you opened. I remember. Yeah,
we got a 7-part series in the Washington Post. There was a lot of things that, you know, we could have probably a whole nother conversation about this, but long form media, I think, was a lot better back then too.
Amen.
With restaurants and food and the purpose, the why.
The why.
You know? Yeah. And so we luckily able to do that, and it was, it was a much bigger. It happened a lot quicker and a lot bigger. I thought I was opening a small neighborhood restaurant that wouldn't really be focused on.
No, sir.
You know,
you did not.
Yeah.
No, sir. And what do you think it was about the Dabney? Was it the soul, the authenticity? Was it the technique?
I think it was the soul and the authenticity, because, you know, and I mean, someone might pull my chef card for this, but something that I say around the restaurant often is, you know, I think at the end of the day, if we're going to put a percentage on it, if we're going to put a weight on it, you know, it's going to be the service, the soul, the vibe, the energy, 60%, and the food 40%. If you really want to make your guest happy and you want to make them, you know, because, and that's as a chef saying that, you know, and I would love to say that the food is, you know, 98, but it's just not. You know, it's not the way. It's got to be great.
It's how we make people feel.
Yeah, exactly.
The drink at Starbucks was the same drink.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, you know, I was really shocked by it, because one of the biggest things that we wanted to do, though, was I went out to all the different restaurants in DC. I was dining everywhere. What do people experience here? What is the average guest in DC experiencing? And the one thing I took away was that there was not great hospitality. There wasn't, a lot of it was transactional. A lot of it was more that old school style of dining where it felt like we're performing a show and there's a behind the curtain and it just didn't. So my business partner and I really talked about it wanting to be very honest. We wanted the restaurant to just be honest, and we wanted to truly make people feel welcome and give them this like great sense of hospitality. We wanted the Dabney to feel like, a nice country house in Virginia that you were staying over at for the weekend, and it was friends that you were hanging out with, and just give that kind of, but we also wanted to deliver a level of food execution and service that would be just as good as any restaurant in New York, any restaurant in Chicago, anywhere, Right. So it was that combination of things. And I think that's what really helped, because the first 6 months, I was all over the place with the food. It took me a while, to get it figured out. And eventually my wife came to me and she was like, at a certain point, you're going to have to start cooking your food and not just cooking the food you cooked in Charleston, which was such a powerful, important thing. And I realized that I'd been a little scared and a little afraid of, just doing certain things and really letting that hearth speak. The way I'd grown up and learned how to cook, the idea of just buying some beautiful carrots, cooking them perfectly over the coals and dressing them with a few things was crazy. No one's going to want that. They need all these other techniques and all these other things, but
especially coming out of a very technique-driven restaurant.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And but thank God she did, because that's what we started doing, and I think that's what allowed the food and everything else to really catch up and be where it needed to be. Is that I had to make myself okay with that. Am I okay? And it fundamentally got me to a question too that I think every chef should ask themselves, which is, when you're cooking, are you cooking for the guest or are you cooking for yourself? And there's not like I'm not saying that one's better than the other, but if it's all technique and it's all these things, then you're forsaking what the guest might want, what they might want to experience, And so at the end of the day, I realized that I was cooking to make people happy. I wanted them to have a great time and enjoy.
Listen
and come back.
to this man.
That's what I wanted to do. And so, and the bottom line was people were enjoying, that carrot dish a lot more than the crazy ideas out of my brain, And so we just started really needling in on that. And how do we get these things where it's like, a good bowl of, Sea Island red peas or whatever it is, or grits or rice or cornbread, whatever, that done well it's always going to win. It's always going to win. And I
love that I was smiling really big. I literally have said those words, who are you cooking for, to 100 young chefs.
Yep.
At the end of the day, it's that intersection of art and commerce. Mm-hmm. There's the art that we want to create, but it has to connect with the people in the seats.
Has to.
It has to. And that's such the analogy I use often is, I think that's why artists give their work to someone else to sell. You rarely see the artist negotiating the price.
That's
because
such a good point.
It's so emotional and it's so personal but we are in the intersection of art and commerce.
Yep.
Especially, as you know better than anyone, you've borrowed money.
Yeah.
You're paying enormous rents.
Yep.
That's a good segue about what you mentioned earlier. I said there's a follow-up question. I ask this a lot because, and you and I have actually had conversations on the phone about this. The business of the restaurant industry is tough.
Yes.
It honestly most often has very little to do with the art.
Yes.
Because you can have the most beautiful art if you signed a bad lease.
Yeah.
Or, matter. Oh my God, if we're not doing $150,000 a week, we can't pay the rent.
Yep.
How was that for you in those when you started seeing the Dabney P&Ls?
Yeah.
Did you feel prepared, unprepared?
Yeah, I felt I felt prepared. I felt like I knew what to do, which was one of the amazing things about David Howard, something that I took, which was he wanted to get chefs involved with numbers.
Amen.
Which is and now we literally, every single one of our sous chefs, all of our managers, they sit down, they see we have declining budgets for every single sector. Everyone knows everything.
Yep.
Because if you don't, the whole thing's for nothing. I remember one of the first days I'd become a manager and was at McCrady's. David Howard actually came in and slammed down this glass of iced tea, and he said, for the past month, everything that you guys have done didn't make enough money to pay for this glass of iced tea. And it's like, that's a very sobering thought to think about, you know?
Yeah.
And especially when you're working, 90 hours or doing whatever. And it's like, what a shame.
What a shame.
An unbelievable
that's
shame.
Right. That's right.
To have all of that. So, when we opened the Dabney, I was like, I want to teach, because I got and to this day, I'm fed up with it. You hire someone as an executive sous chef, as a CDC, as a whatever, and they might be an all-star cook, but they've got no idea how to manage labor, how to manage food costs, how to do whatever. And what a disservice. And I talk to other chefs and people, and it's like, do you talk to your team about numbers? And it's, oh, no, we take care of all that. They don't need to, I don't want them worrying about that. And it's like, worrying about, that's the job.
That's the job.
That's the job, So it's big for us. I'm really so focus glad on it.
That you said all that. From the minute I started the Indigo Road, we do monthly reviews, and a bartender could, like, anybody that wants to learn about this.
Yep.
Because like you, I have hired many folks come from very, newsworthy,
Yep.
and they know nothing about the business. And the word disservice, I had someone say to me one time, I went to this restaurant. They were very enamored, and everything was amazing. And, they don't have to make money and blah, 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 blah. And I said, but when that line cook leaves that restaurant, they are going to be at such a disadvantage because they're going to look through their next opportunity potentially as very negative. Oh, you're cutting corners, you're making sacrifices, when all they're really doing is managing a responsible business.
Yes.
It's so hard to make money in this. And it gets harder with every passing year.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, somebody asked, how are things? I'm like, sales are up, margins are down.
Yeah. Yes.
We're busier than we've ever been, and we're making less money.
Yes.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing.
Well, and somehow, heaven forbid a restaurant had a 20% profit margin. It's like a tech company or a, manufacturer or whatever. They can have an 80% profit margin. Everyone just says, oh, great.
That's amazing.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Wow. That's, look at all that profit Google makes or Apple makes or whoever. Right. But you take a restaurant and they do well, and suddenly you're, it's, they only care about the money. It's like,
I know.
It's just, it's a bizarre thing to me to see that, because I think that stigma and that idea and that thought is part of there's many, but I think it's one of the reasons that holds our industry and profession back from achieving, the highest levels of professionalism that we could and should have, you know, because so many people went out with that, romantic intent and idea to open their own place. And I've spent many years in that zone, and, they go at it, they kill themselves. Maybe it messes with their marriage. Maybe it hurts their, relationship with their loved ones, their kids, whatever. They dedicate all their time and energy, and, that 10-year lease comes to an end. And they say, okay, well, it's going to close the restaurant and move on. I guess I'll go back and get a job with, a hotel or somewhere else. And that's where it is. And it's sad because, that opportunity to actually build and grow doesn't ever even, really enter the atmosphere for them, because the only way that I see there's a lot of little restaurants I've seen over the years that are fantastic restaurants. And I know, just because of what I know of how the business works, that it's not going to last.
I know.
There's no way they generate enough money to pay the chef what he deserves for his talent and his skill. And
that's right.
Same with the GM, the same with in 5 years, there's going to be something will happen and it'll dissolve. It'll go away.
It'll be gone.
And it's okay if you go into that bright-eyed and you understand the circumstances and that's your choice, great.
Right.
God bless you. But
Yeah.
if you're thinking that it's going to support you and your family and, there's certain things that you got to make sure are there, and the size of the restaurant, the guest average,
seats,
a lot of those things
all
really matter,
And it's math. It's not personal.
Correct.
I had, we had opened Oku, Nashville, and, the manager was looking at the P&L, very astute. But what you don't see on the P&L is what you borrowed to build the restaurant, right? Yeah. And it was, we made all this money this year. And I said, come here.
Yeah.
And
let me show you something.
Here's what our monthly loan payment is $40,000 a month. Here's this, and this. And I think at the end of the day, there was like a 3% profit. And I said, now, if you are an investor in this business, and this is how much you put in, and this is what you made this year, how would you feel about it? And you could see the whole, and I often, like you, to what you just said, I go into places and I look around and I'm like, you know what? They basically are created a salary for themselves.
Yep.
At some point, when they're making the same money they did 5 years ago, that's going to become disheartening.
Yep.
And they're going to feel like, what was I doing this for? Yeah. I'm worried about the air conditioning breaking, the plumbing that's backed up. I'm here on my days off, like you said, and there's a price. I mean, you talk so lovingly about your wife. My wife pays a price for what I do. Yep. And I'm able to support my family and my daughter, and that's the trade. Yep. If I didn't have that trade, I'm pretty sure my wife would say, enough of this. Yep. But we don't talk about the business enough, and I'm really enjoying this conversation because I feel like what I've heard you talk a lot about is mentorship. Yes. The mentors you've had. I've had incredible mentors. I feel this deep responsibility to mentor the generation underneath me. And one of my employees went to Nashville, and he's on his third restaurant. He's doing very well. And I'll get these very sweet, I'm so grateful for you. This wouldn't have happened. And I always say the same thing. You'll do it for someone else. Yeah. There will be someone in your world that is ready for that step. Give them all the tools that I gave you. So I appreciate your honesty around that, because we just don't. Commerce and art, man, and it's tough. And failure, we have had things not work for sure, for sure, and it's soul crushing. Yes, because all of the reason you got into it was, I wouldn't say all of it, because I'm seasoned enough. It's like, ooh, I got this idea. Okay, let's get a pencil. Yeah. What do you learn from failures, Jeremy? Not even failures. What do you learn from things that don't go the way you hoped they would? Oh, I mean, so much. I think we learned so much more on the back end of that. In my life, it's exponentially more from failures than from successes. Right. And oftentimes successes, you're left thinking, wow, I'm glad that worked. You're not like, whereas if you have a failure, we recently closed a restaurant, and it was, you want to diagnose every single aspect. Right. Where did these things happen? What went wrong? And it sticks with you. It's the stuff that keeps you up at night. It's the stuff that kind of, sticks in your craw and you're fixated on. Okay. And then, if you can get to that place where you say, okay, and then you start to develop real principles from those failures. Yeah. And real standards for how you want to operate. Do. Yes, correct. If you're smart, you do. We're never doing that again. Right. You know what I mean? Right. Because that's right. There's a lot of way, like, for example, the Dabney. A lot of people told me that going back in that alley was a terrible idea and it would fail, because I was in this spot that was perceived as a non-nice, glorious location. Right, sure. And I was, proved them wrong, blah, blah, blah. A big part of why, restaurant that we closed didn't work out was because the neighborhood and area wasn't great. It's a very true, real thing that needs to be paid attention to. And I think a part of me making that thought process and decision was the idea that, I've done it before.
do it again, you know? And now for the rest of my life, I will definitely open more restaurants. I will do more things, but the amount of energy and work that I put into like the demographics and to the neighborhood for like when I first opened the Dabney was so intense. And the second restaurant we opened was near it. And so I thought, I don't need to do as much.
Right.
You know, I don't need to have, and it's just, there's so many of these things that are so crucial. That business aspect of it cannot be overstated.
I know.
Because the other stuff, you'll do it. It's the fun stuff. It's the cool stuff. Like
it is.
You don't need to worry about getting that stuff done because you'll do it because you want to, because it's there.
Because it's what gets you out of bed.
Exactly. The business stuff is so crucial. And, you know, if your business does well, your opportunity to support and build and grow is massive. And
it'll present itself.
These, you know.
I remember when Jeremiah Bacon and I first partnered up, and we had not raised the money for the Macintosh yet. And I said, we were at Oak, and it was the financial, you know, things were not great. And I said, look, man, if we fix this, success is its own reward. The other stuff will come. Let's just focus on this moment. Scott Crawford called me one night, my buddy in Raleigh, and he had just opened his first restaurant. And I laugh, and he and I laugh about it now, but it was like 7:30 on a Friday night, and he's calling me, and I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah, what's going on?
And he would say, I don't take credit, but he would say, I'm the reason that he went out on his own, that I helped him have the confidence. And he calls me, and so I felt this like weird, like, God, I hope this works. I wasn't worried about his food at all.
Yeah, amazing chef.
Yeah. He calls me, he says, man, I don't know what to do. I said, okay, what's up? He said, it's 80 degrees in the dining room and my AC is broken. The restaurant was like 4 months old. He had taken over a second generation space. And I said, well, what's the quote? And he said, well, it's $20,000. And I said, well, what do you have in the bank? He said, I have $21,000. I said, well, you don't have a choice. It is Friday, so you're going to get the sales from Friday and Saturday. It'll hit your bank on Monday, so your payroll, you should be able to cover payroll. And he was like, you're right. He goes, thanks, man, I appreciate it. He goes, nobody tells you that this is what it's like to own a restaurant.
Yep.
And he goes, I don't feel like I can talk to employees and like nobody understands unless you've owned it. And I laughed. I said, welcome to owning a restaurant. You know, man, I mean, it is so much more than you ever think it's going to be.
Well, that mentorship is so key for that, being able to talk. I mean, I've called you before out of the blue to talk to you, and I think that you've created such an amazing, such a great role model for what you can do and the power of being able to nail those things and understanding the it's like a holistic, it's the whole thing, right? Like so many, I come from the chef world, right? So it's like, oh, I'm food focused. And now as I get older and I think more about being a restaurateur and more about that side of it, it's like, you know, wow, well, there's people that come to this and, you know, they're more focused on, you know, the bar program and the service and, you know, the lighting and all these different, and there's so many elements to it, you know, but it's beautiful to see it done well and see it done and move forward, because at the end of the day, you know, that creation of one of the things that I'm the most proud of is providing jobs, you know, giving people opportunities.
I love that.
You know, an ability to provide for their family and to work hard and have that purpose, have that why, you know.
There it is, man. When you see people thriving, that's a feeling, it's hard to just, it's humbling for starters. And the weight of that, knowing that like these people they've trusted in me to make good decisions as the business owner to provide. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. And it's pretty scary. You know, I remember we unfortunately closed the Macintosh, which I still will go down as saying one of my big mistakes in my career. But, you know, I was going to give the space back to the landlord because I was pretty defeated. And, you know, for me, part of my, you know, struggle with addiction and sobriety is the imposter syndrome. Like I don't deserve. Like you're gonna fail and you're gonna mess. You're gonna mess this all up. And I still struggle with that. When I make a mistake, like it's just like I've ruined it all. Yes. But so I was going to give the space back, and one of my investors, Michael Meyer, who's been with me the whole time, who's just incredible, said, well, why would you do that? And I said, Michael, I don't want to appear to be just throwing things against a wall to see if they'll fit. Even though we're a big company, like, it still has to have soul, and it still has to be something I'm excited about. And Enter Masa Hamaya, who's our partner at Shokudo that we just opened, our Japanese tavern, and it was his passion that reignited that in me. But still, I said, all right, well, let's figure out the performa. Like, yes, dry aged fish, robata. Speaking my love language.
Yeah.
But what do we have to do in sales to make this work?
Yep.
And I know you will do that too as you continue to expand, and I know you're going to expand, and I can't wait to see it. So a few more things, and then I'll let you on your day. So you won a James Beard Award. I was actually in the audience that year. I had been nominated.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm always the bridesmaid, never the bride, but that's all right. Being nominated is an honor. What was that like for you? Because if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, you got up and you said, I didn't even prepare a speech because I didn't think I was going to win.
Yeah. So talk about the imposter syndrome thing. That's very, very real for me, and has been for a very long time. To this day, it's something I work on with my therapist big time, all the time.
I'm so glad I go to therapy every Monday.
I'm big.
Highly recommend it.
Yes, yeah. Please do it. You will be so grateful.
Everybody needs a therapist.
Yeah, and it's funny to find the core of that and where that comes from, and the insecurity that a lot of that is there, and where a lot of those things are born. But that year, I felt like there are so many other chefs and so many other people, and the way things work, because all I'm thinking about is my failures, is the mistakes,
Amen.
is the problems, is the things I'm not doing right. And so just going there, I was so nervous, and I just felt like it was a foregone conclusion. And I remember telling my wife in the car, we were, in the Uber on the way over, and I don't think I even went through the front entrance. I don't think I went through like the little red carpet thing. I don't think I did any. I just slinked in, kind of sat down, and my wife actually had to like knuckle me because they announced my name and I didn't register because I was so ready for it to be somebody else's. And she was like, "That's you," and I was beyond shocked, and learned 2 lessons that day. Number 1, always write a speech, always write something,
right?
And number 2, that afterwards I talked to a lot of people, and a lot of the friends and people in the industry that I really respect, they were like, "Oh, it was always going to be you." Like I
wasn't surprised.
No, like so many of the people.
I was not surprised at all.
And I had developed this narrative in my mind around all these things that were happening at the time, and it's just like, there's no way it'll be me. And I convinced myself of this reality, and I don't know, it was a wild experience. It was really good opportunity. When I got shortlisted for it, I was doing a pop-up in New York, this place called Chef's Club, and I was.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I was working.
American Express, I think, did it, or somebody did some.
Yeah,
it was like a rotating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Different chefs. So we recreated the Dabney in NoHo for like 3 months. We brought our own plates up there, everything.
Wow.
It was a wild time. But I was basically working up there, and then I would take like a 2 or 3 a.m. train back down to DC just to get into bed with my wife for a couple of hours. And then I would get like an 8 a.m. train back up there because it was like trying to make sure both restaurants are running. And so I'd paid no attention that year. And so the awards had come out, everything had happened, and my wife called me and she was like, "Congratulations." I was like, "For what?" And she was like, "You're on the short list." And I was like, "No, can't be." She was like, "You're on it. We're going." Like, it could be a thing.
That.
And so that's how it just, that whole thing seemed surreal. It was a surreal thing. So
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Did that change the business at the restaurant?
Not really. The biggest impact on business was Michelin, I would say.
We've seen that here for
Yes.
sure. And at our restaurant Luminosa in Asheville that got a green star.
Yep. Congrats. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Big boost.
Yeah.
I love that Michelin is here.
Oh, I think it's fantastic.
You know, I think there's a validation. There's a different kind of validation for that.
Yes. Well, I like the way they operate. You know, to this day, Michelin, we've 10 years in business. We've had one since 2016. Every year that they've been in DC, we've retained ours. I've never once known when a Michelin inspector is in my restaurant.
I like that.
Never once. And
it's nerve-wracking as hell, but I like it.
Well, you know, and when we first opened, I had this idea that like there's no real VIP. You know, to us, a VIP would be like if a friend, maybe it's the cousin, the brother, the girlfriend, the boyfriend of a server, a cook, whatever, you know, we're going to send a bunch of stuff and take care of them. But the idea being that we want to set a baseline that's good enough that everybody feels like they're having a wonderful time, you know?
Right.
And I think that that was a way for me to give myself a little peace of mind, and that I'm never going to be able to scope out and know who these people are that are coming in here. So
it can be relieving if you just let go.
Yep. Well, and I think that, you know, Michelin is born off of so many years of understanding excellence and understanding technique. And as a chef, that's really important to me, you know, because we're in an era now where, I mean, there's so many things that impact the business now. And it's different than it used to be, you know, and it's a whole new world. And I think it's nice to have a grounding effect of, you know, someone coming in and judging that you're, I don't know anybody. I have a lot of friends who have tried very hard to break that veil and understand who's who and who's doing what. And I don't know anybody that's been successful at it yet.
Me neither.
Yeah. So.
Good for Michelin.
Yeah.
I bet I could just sit here and talk all day.
I don't have anything going on, by the way, either. So if you want to do a little longer, feel free.
Good. So then, and I haven't said this to you, I thought it was bold. Then you decided to go to a tasting format.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, damn.
Yeah.
It's, you know, Will Guidara talks about when he was at 11 Madison, how every time they would reach a certain pinnacle, he would blow it all up and start over. And I'm like, I don't know that I have that courage. So why blow it? Not that you blew it up, but
we blew it up.
Okay. Why blow it all up after that? Because I would imagine you know you're financially sustainable at least, you know.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, COVID had a big part to do with everything, right?
Okay.
So we had enjoyed incredible success from when we really got. You know, we opened Halloween of 2015. By 2016, things had started to really roll for us. By 2018, you know, Michelin star, James Beard Awards, top 10 on every, you know, Bon Appetit, whatever. We'd done all the things.
Right.
And the restaurant was cruising. And we were so busy. We showed a lot of immaturity early on because we just wanted to welcome everybody. You know, I mean, we were putting 220, 250 covers through a 88-seat restaurant. Ooh. You know, like just burning,
baby. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was taxing. You know, we were 6 days a week, which I think is like a bad idea. I think you go 5, you go 7. I think 6 creates a lot of problems. But anyways, it was going great. Everything was perfect. It was exactly what we wanted, you know. And the funny thing was, I had people tell me, you know, oh, well, you must be loaded or you must be, you know, it took us 5 years to pay back our, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And right when we did, COVID hits, you know? So we suddenly overnight, we're to-go business. We're doing it, you know, we're scrambling. We never closed. We always just, it was like, you know what, I'm just going to, whatever the CDC saying, whatever I'm allowed to do as a bit. And there was a lot of pushback. I mean, we had people in the city that, I don't know what happened down here, but people threatening, you know, you shouldn't be open. It's a harm. It's a day. And it's like, you know what? These people have children that they have to pay for.
Yeah.
They have mortgages they have to pay. They have, and I'm going to keep as many employed as long as I can, you know? So we kept going. But what happened was when we were able to come back to it, remember it was, the seating requirements, and you can only have so many tables in so many areas. And, you know, when you start doing that, a la carte just doesn't work. You know, it's like if somebody comes in and takes a table and you only got half the amount of tables and then they just get a salad and sit there forever, you can really sink the ship pretty quickly. And so we started thinking back to, okay, well, it was so busy and I couldn't really make the food I wanted to make. And I you know, it's it's time for a new challenge. And we were opening another restaurant. We were opening up this French brasserie that didn't work out, Petite Cerise. And
It was delicious, by the way.
oh, thank you. It was my love letter to France. And I love France, and I love daytime dining and a nice
all of it.
proper omelet, you know. But you know, I feel like I got a master's. Talk about education from failure. I got a master's from that one.
Brother, I know.
But
it was very good, and I want you to know that, like,
thank
it was
you.
not all for naught.
I'm just getting to the side where I can like talk about it and be okay with it.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but
I've just got, well, my therapist actually just helped me, you know, just over the past few months, I've really gotten into a much better place with it,
Good.
you know, which is good. It took a long time. But, you know, I was trying to, it's so funny, especially with your, you know, you talked about the way that your mind works, especially, so I have a very addictive personality. I've been in March 14th will be 12 years for me of being sober.
Congratulations.
And, thank you very
That's
much.
beautiful.
And I just had created this narrative. The restaurants are too close. I need to create this separation. I really need to, like, you know what? I'd attracted these great chefs at the Dabney that wanted to push and wanted to do things a certain way. And it's, you know, every night, if you have a chef who's into that, they say, well, you know, chef, if we were only doing 50 covers, I mean, we could have really done that right. We could have really, you know, and I was at a strange point in my career too, where I'd been, you know, kind of beat down from COVID and everything. I went from having this amazing success to every day is a struggle. You're watching that cash burn, you're watching all the things happen, you know, and it's like, yeah, let's get a new challenge. Let's get inspired, excited. And, you know, so we blew it all up. We renovated the whole restaurant. We changed to a tasting menu. And then Petite Cerise opened, and all of a sudden, you know, all of my time was there. It wasn't going the way. I mean, I'm sure you know exactly how hard it was to find good people, and hiring, staffing just became the problem. You know, wages went up 40, 50, 60% in a matter of a year or two.
Yep.
And a lot of the good people, the veterans, the people that had been keeping things strong, they were done. You know, they had moved on. And so a lot of building needed to be redone, and we made this choice to do it, and we went after it. We did it, but we've switched back to a la carte now.
Okay.
I will say that.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I'll be honest, I've always, as someone who's never done a pure tasting menu restaurant, I've always, the finances of it, I've always looked at, I'm scared. I'm like, I don't know. You know, even, Will Gadara and I have become good friends, and I was convinced that 11 Madison Park made no money, because when I ate there, I'm like, there is 40 support staff on this, and I'm not going to reveal any confidential.
Yeah.
He shared with me that they did.
Yep.
Because I think in New York,
New York, I was going to say,
if
New
you
York's
can be the number
caveat.
one restaurant in the world. So for those of you thinking to do a tasting menu, you're either going to be the number one restaurant in the world, or you're going to do a la carte.
Yeah. And you know, it ultimately came back to me having to ask myself that question again after we decided to close Petite Cerise, which was very difficult. But once we made that decision, I had to really ask myself, you know, is the Dabney doing what I want it to be doing? You know, am I cooking for my guests? Because we went from being beloved. I mean, if you think, I'll just show you with my hands. This was our customer pool previously. Then our customer pool was here, you know? And it made me realize, and I started really digging in with our guests, our regulars, the people who had stayed true to us and stayed, and a lot of them, and one thing that some great regulars said to me, they said, you know what, Jeremiah, we've done very well in life. We could afford to come here every night of the week if we want to. You know, it's not a price issue. But we just don't want to eat like this all the time. And the old Dabney, we wanted to eat there Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. It was comforting. It made us feel good. We don't cook at home. So we're eating and and we had a lot of regulars. Like, I mean, we had people that stacked up 300, 400, 500 visits in a couple of years. And it made me realize, okay, well, do I really like eating like that?
I don't. Not anymore. Not as I've gotten older.
Me neither.
2.5 hours is kind of it for me. And
and I've got it in me about twice a year, 3 times a year to go do something that's going to push me.
Yeah.
It's going to challenge me.
Yep.
You know, I really enjoy just having a comforting meal and eating something that is simple but really delicious, done really well, done with care, and I think a lot of those things, and it just struck me. I was like, you know what? We're not doing this.
Yeah.
And it was so nice because it felt like the clouds had kind of been parted and lifted, and it was like,
great.
We're going to get back on track with what the Dabney was meant to be, what it was always meant to be, what it's built for. I mean, I really think about the Dabney as, and I think you're a big fan too. One of my favorite restaurants is Gramercy Tavern.
My favorite restaurant in America.
And when we opened the Dabney,
I always sit in the tavern.
Yeah.
I never sit in the back.
Me too. And it's like, I ask myself, who do I want to be like? And it's like Gramercy Tavern is the type of restaurant. So if the Dabney is doing what the Dabney does in another 10 years and another 10 years,
that's right.
That's my greatest hope, and the best way for us to get there and to do that is being what we, started as, which is, an a la carte restaurant that supports this amazing group of farmers and artisans and people that we have and provides this level of comfort and service at, a Michelin star execution level. But you can come in and just, have a dish at the bar and a beer.
That's right.
And go about your business, or come in and really go for it if you want to.
Right.
That flexibility is there. And I think that it just really matters. And let me tell you, it has been amazing. The city has been incredibly excited about it.
That's so great.
Yeah,
congratulations.
At age 10, you start to worry. I mean, nowadays, it's like whatever's new, whatever's hottest, whatever's.
I know.
Which is the craziest thing in the world to me, because any craft, any artist, they're going to get better the longer they do it.
That's right.
So it's wild to me that we're so fixated always on the hottest
what's
new thing.
What's new and what's buzzy. And
yeah, so.
I love the Gramercy. I'm so glad you mentioned, I was actually going to say, I've put you in that same category with the Dabney.
Oh, thank you very much.
I've eaten at Gramercy Tavern 50 or 60 times.
That's awesome.
And what I love is that it's 30 years old and it's just as relevant as it's ever been. Michael Anthony's a good friend and one of my heroes, but we have a restaurant that's 21 years old, and it's busier than it. And the first Oku is 16 years old now. And it's busier than it's ever been. Yep. And there's something to that, know, it's not, and I actually had a customer the other night say, yeah, I like new restaurants, but there's something about an older restaurant that's matured.
Yep.
I love it. Okay. A couple of rapid fire questions, because everybody's waving their hands that we need to stop talking.
I know. I could
just keep
hours.
going. Yeah. What does the word hospitality mean to you?
I think hospitality, I associate it with gratitude a lot.
That's a new one. I love it.
Say
more.
Yeah. I guess it's because the unique experience you have, this experience others have it. But when you decide to open a restaurant, and you hang your shingle and you say, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to do this. And people, I mean, the most valuable commodity is time, is somebody's time, right?
Amen.
And when people...
Non-renewable resource.
Yeah. When people decide to come spend their time, their special occasion, their night, whatever, with you, I'm incredibly grateful. And it's like, and I think about that all the time, and I want to reciprocate. I want to show that I'm grateful, and I want to have that sense of connection between us that allows me to say thank you for deciding to be with us and to give us the opportunity to serve you and to be able to have that experience together. Because I think it's really important. It's such a unique thing, and the older I get, the deeper I think about it. And at the end of the day, you can make all the manuals or books if all you want to treat people nice or to do whatever, but there's a culture you have to instill, and there's an understanding that has to happen to really get it to work the way it needs to, and that's, so I think of it as gratitude. I just feel very grateful for the opportunity to have that experience and to show them what we do and how we do it, and to have them spend their time with us,
I love that. What's your hope for the industry? So much has changed. You've said it several times. I feel like there's this post-COVID, there's so many different dynamics, and yet there's so many things that will always remain unchanged.
Yeah.
What's your hope for the business?
I hope that the industry continues to its growth pattern on the professional side, and I hope that it continues to develop and build. it's given me everything. I never worked in any
too.
other industry. I've
Me
never
too.
done anything else. It's been, and it will be my life forever.
Ditto.
And it really, sticks a knife. And we were talking a little bit earlier about why you started this podcast, but I get a little knife in the chest every time I see another big story about how unprofessional or how so, and it's, things do happen, and there's, things that occur in parts of the industry that need to change. And I think a lot of change has occurred.
Amen.
And I want to really continue to see that change. And I want to get to a point where people don't come in and ask a server who's, could be making six figures, what's your real job? What are you going to do when you grow
Right.
up? What are you going to do after this? What are you going to do? And I just would love to see America accept it the way that so many other cultures have, and understand that, there's levels to this. There's all sorts of restaurants,
Yep.
And the person, I worked in fast food when I was young too. So I don't begrudge
too.
someone asking that
Yeah.
question when
Yeah,
I'm
me
doing
too.
that, But when you're going to an amazing restaurant, in your town, wherever it is, and the people, they're professionals who love what they do and really believe in it. And there's so much work and so much effort put into it. So I hope to see the industry continue to build into that place where it gets looked at as other industries and other things, and can be, treated equally in that respect. And we have to earn that and prove it and
Yep.
do everything we can to get there.
Our mantra is to leave the industry better than we found
Yep.
it. What are you afraid of? What keeps you up at night?
Oh, I worry that people, I guess in regards to food, I've got all sorts of other worries, but as far as the restaurant business is concerned, I worry that people will lose sight and connection and wonder with the restaurant experience as a new experience, as a surprise, when I grew up, when I was younger, if you wanted to learn about a chef, either they had to have written a cookbook that you can buy and look through, and you'll remember this as well too.
Oh, yeah, of
or you
course.
had to go there. Maybe there was an article,
Right.
So you got to have these experiences where you go eat at this restaurant, and it is, wow, what is that? What is that? Oh, I can't believe they did.
Yeah.
It was so amazing. And now, people, social media is filled with every single dish, every single angle, everything. And, I noticed a lot of the young cooks will say, oh yeah, well that place isn't any good, and I'm like, oh, you ate there? Oh, no, I've never been there. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I've seen all the dishes. I know, I've seen, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So I really, I hope that doesn't, go away. I want people to have that same experience, that same sense of going into a place and just, think about how beautiful it is when you find a restaurant. Like if you're in if you're in another city, if you're somewhere
Yeah.
else, and it's one of my favorite things to this day. It could be a hole in the wall, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if you find a restaurant that you had no idea about, and then you get a great meal, good service, good experience, it is wonderful. I think there's few things in life that are as enjoyable as that. So
I agree. I was just thinking of this restaurant in Siena, Italy, that I found called Enzo. And we literally were in a retail shop, and I said, hey, I'm in the restaurant business. I don't know Siena. And it was a husband and wife, and
Yep.
it was riveting.
yeah,
It was like I left there going, oh my God, it's that feeling, that sense of wonder, and that joy of discovery.
Yes.
Where you feel like you found something that not everybody knows about, and she was the front of the house, he was the chef. They were yelling at each other the whole time, but there was so much joy in what they were doing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
What's
Last
the best?
question. So the name of this podcast is Say Grace. I wrote a book called Say Grace.
Mm-hmm.
The word grace for me has a lot of different meanings, but one of them, growing up in the South, we would have Sunday supper.
Mm-hmm.
Grandma was there. She would pick one of the grandkids to say grace, and really what we were talking about is what we were thankful for.
Yeah.
What are you thankful for?
Oh, wow. A lot. I'm thankful for opportunity, being able to wake up in the morning and just go do things, go do what I can do. And I'm incredibly thankful for all the amazing people in my life that allow it to be a life worth living, that allow it to be, my wife every single day, people like you having conversations like this, my culinary director who right now is prepping for our event tomorrow.
Right.
People, I thought I was an introvert and wanted to stay away from people when I was younger for a long time. And, the older I get, the more I realize how much I love people and how, grateful I am that, can have them in my life.
I think about the Atlanta Food and Wine Festival, where we had a little impromptu Ben's Friends, and we were sitting on the patio, and you were much more introverted then than you are now. It's really a pleasure to see.
Yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a long time coming, and I feel like I love working on myself. I love self-help books, talking to my therapist, all these things to try to grow and figure it out, because there's just so much out there, and you don't see what it's so hard, and so it's been a fun journey, and I'm just starting. So
love that. Well, Jeremiah, thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thanks for having me. It's been an
We
honor.
have a gift for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
So our friends at Smithy, which is a Charleston-based
Beautiful pan.
a cast iron for you.
Love it.
It has your name underneath.
Oh, thank you so much.
So thank you for being on the show today. I never can get the box folded again.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, Jeremiah.
It's been
Thank
an
you.
absolute
What a
pleasure.
lovely conversation. Thank you. Hope you liked what you heard, and thanks for tuning in. If you like what you heard, tell a friend. We're on all the major platforms. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Say Grace, Food for Thought and Hospitality. We hope you join us next time as we continue to dive deeper into the inspirational stories about the transformative power of hospitality.